sequencing, what they ask. NH Hop, yeah. Housing opportunity.
And I'll be on that webinar for work, so.
You like speaking?
I hope not.
Okay.
Although now that you mention it, they might ask me actually. I hope not.
Yeah.
Is that a recorded webinar?
Yeah, most webinars that we do are recorded and put on the YouTube channel, but I'll make sure. I'll ask just to make sure, but usually they are.
Because once we work on that, it'd be nice for everybody to read whatever it is that we put together and collaborate on it.
That webinar specifically how to navigate and apply for HOP grants.
Yeah.
Correct?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Thank you.
There's, I think you said 2.9 million? Yeah. An additional 2.9 million was allocated to the grant program. This is preliminary, but just thinking this round, we need specific help. So I'm thinking we want help on multifamily, mixed use, potentially if there's anything else we can do with workforce housing. Are there other things that we would want to ask about?
Workforce housing is different from affordable housing. Is that correct?
Yes.
So maybe
Yes.
that as well.
It's a specific definition.
Well, but workforce housing is the state's
Right.
definition
Definition of-
for affordable
Okay.
housing.
I knew that
Is
there
it?
were two different things, but I didn't know if they needed to be addressed separately.
So the monetary figure of what a household costs is the same? Is that what you're saying?
They both use the same statistical housing market, yes.
No, our first go-around when that was
Interesting.
workforce, we labeled it workforce housing.
Correct, we did.
Right. I find that.
Because that's what
That's
the
what we have to
statute,
comply with.
I think
and
it's a
that's what the
better term
statute says.
than-
But that's,
Well,
it's also the law that we have to conform. Okay, any other housing related?
One of the things that some of the other HOP communities had looked at, and I don't know if folks would be interested, but figured I'd bring it up, is some communities were looking at or studying ways that they could have an ADU ordinance where they allowed attached units that fit certain aesthetic standards.
Yeah.
I don't know if there would be support for that in the community, but that's just something I've seen other communities do, and I was just want to throw it out there.
Yeah, yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
It seems sometimes they can be gray and
Yeah.
you have to read them and interpret them and
And enforce them.
The issue I see is putting too many things on at once.
That's true.
You can plan for them all.
Right.
Research them.
Right.
And at some point you
Yeah.
gotta decide what you want to try to convey.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And then throw them all in a bucket.
Right. No, that.
But this
makes
time
perfect
around for the
sense.
grant, I want to make sure that we ask for help on specific things so that we get some tangible stuff that we can use. And then if it's, we
you can
may
ask
decide to
for-
pursue some, not pursue some, we do it
You
over
really won't know
so many
what really
years.
might be beneficial to researching something. So throw the net wide.
Well, we've got the report that RPC did for us, and that's kind of like
Right.
pros and cons, and we need to like dig deeper and figure it out for Brentwood, what it would look like.
it'd be nice if we had a professional actually go and look at the property that's available within these districts. And I think if you're gonna tailor those ordinances to those areas, I think that it would be better in the long run.
That's another thing, Glenn, maybe you can look at this. On the HOP Grants website, there's a list of qualified consultants. Would you mind looking at that and just seeing, maybe just sending us some thoughts? Some of them, it looks like there's just a couple that aren't approved for the third phase. Most of them are.
If there's another consultant that we like, there have been other communities that have had consultants approved, but they need to let New Hampshire Housing know just
Yeah,
so that they can be vetted. I don't know what the vetting process is, but
yeah,
there have been consultants that have been approved that aren't on the list.
okay. If you know of others. After the last meeting, we had a really nice presentation last meeting, and we asked about potentially having our ordinance reviewed. So I sent him an email afterwards, sent him the ordinance, and asked for a quote. So haven't heard back, but because we will have potentially have some funds this year. So once we have that quote, and I don't know if the road quote is probably the same.
He wouldn't change it.
Wouldn't have changed. We can consider those two things. And I also, I need to follow up with Karen about the master plan and setting aside funds to do more at once. We've been
Right.
doing them kind of
I know, like,
piecemeal.
we couldn't sign a contract for number that money.
Yeah.
We have a sizable budget we could use for some of these programs that we've been wanting to do.
Yeah.
Some of these years.
Yep.
And parlay a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I have in my possession a Mylar of the town of Brentwood for a 100-year flood event. So I found it very interesting that the standards of the 100-year flood event are the models are ever progressing.
Yeah.
Not just a stagnant figure.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that Mylar is what would be used in a 100-year event for emergency preparedness, and whether another Mylar of that scale needs to be updated for emergency preparedness.
You could
And
check with what's in there.
If that could be on the list of things that we could have this gentleman help us with, I think that would be advantageous.
What is his name?
How long have you had him?
Rich
Very long time.
Murphy, Rick Murphy? Is
I
he the
think it
emergency
was.
management guy?
Somebody else's possession.
We get federal guidelines updated a few years ago, we get a chance to comment. So that there are addendums, updates.
They don't do them on Mylar anymore though, but they have it, the floodplain maps as most recently adopted by FEMA are available electronically.
Oh, they are?
They are.
So that data is, okay.
Yep, and they're available through the state planning office. They have a floodplain coordinator who's just in charge of that very thing.
So that was, if in the event of an emergency, that's where emergency personnel would go to find that data and possibly places that may be evacuated
We have an
or.
emergency, what's it called, emergency management?
Coordinator.
Yeah,
Okay.
Rick Murphy. What is his name?
Is that data available for us to get at any time?
Oh, it's all
It's available online, yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any other topics you guys would be interested in hearing about? And maybe working with the Conservation Commission to bring somebody in to talk about?
The Conservation Commission has some, once every month or every other month.
John from the Society of Protect New Hampshire Forests is speaking. He'll be in the room. He'll be online. He'll be presenting electronically. He should have a 15, 20-minute presentation. You can ask questions. You can tune in. We'll be broadcasting. And then I know someone else on the committee is working for a presentation on rivers in October.
6 o'clock.
6:30.
Can I just ask, when you say rivers, like the geology of rivers or the protection of rivers or?
John?
So what day was that?
Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests is August 14, that's a Wednesday, second Wednesday of the month at 6:30. So it would be September 11, and then I don't know the October date, but it would be the second Wednesday. 9th?
Second Wednesday?
Yeah, second Wednesday at 6:30.
It's in the Brentwood newsletter, you guys are gonna put in your dates.
So thinking back about different applications we've looked at or engaging discussions we've had amongst ourselves, are there other topics where you feel like we could use some outside perspective. I think there's the Seacoast Workforce Housing.
The Workforce Housing Coalition.
Yeah. I keep saying I'm gonna,
They came and spoke to us before we did our last workforce housing.
Really? Yeah.
There's a different executive director then.
Nick Taylor's a friend of mine, so if you need help with that outreach, I can reach out.
would you mind asking him if he would
Sure.
be willing to come to a meeting and
Yeah.
just give us a overview?
Definitely.
Okay. All right, well, think about if there's other stuff. I think it's great what the Conservation Commission is doing and that we've had people coming in. Mhm.
We're also debating dates for a public presentation on conservation in Brentwood. Probably towards the end of September, early October, we haven't set the date, which would do. We meet on August 8th. So we have two landowners, possibly one who put land in conservation, one who acquired land that was already in conservation, someone from the land trust, and work with maybe a consultant, but it's just general information, kind of giving more education to the community about what issues and how we can help for people to protect landscape, open space, and all of that.
Nice.
And that's in August?
We're meeting August 8th to set some dates and outline, but that will probably be end of September, early October. And we'll publicize that to posters, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera.
Is the August 8th meeting going to be attended by someone from manual engineering to go over that question?
Manual engineering, I believe, as well as Grove Engineering is going to attend August 14th.
14th.
Yes.
I was looking for something on our website and came across, it was like a colorful brochure that the Conservation Commission made. Is that up to date, or is that something?
There are so many brochures.
I don't, yeah, it was, I mean, it was the Brentwood Conservation Commission, how to take care of your property.
I think that was a rain garden.
There was maybe some rain garden stuff on there.
And I think that was the one that they did about nitrate runoff.
Yes. Yes. And I think there are some copies.
There's some here.
Out there. You can print it off on the town webpage.
Yeah.
All the conservation. But
Yeah.
we're looking at some new materials that UNH has been very helpful,
Mhm.
providing materials to me that I could pick up Tuesday. But they have some great resources that we need to share.
Nice. That reminds me, Bruce, you mentioned the green snow
Yes.
program.
That's something that I to work on. UNH Stormwater Center has had for quite a number of years this green snow initiative, they call it. And Jillian, I believe, I just got to spend some time to get going on some of these projects, but she did a lot of research on that. And how that came to the forefront was that when the river run development was being addressed on the road, the issue came up about proximity to the river and what we could do to further or protect salt. So that was a condition of their approval that they would pay for it, institute a green snow program. So of course Bruce says, well, if we're going to do it for them, and their runoff is all controlled through stormwater. Stormwater process, so it got into my skin a little bit.
Who's this
because
Bruce guy?
Here's our highway department, going on every town road, over something like 8 bridges, 9 bridges that I counted, and they're traveling the whole length of Mill Road, spraying salt right directly into the Exeter River, literally into the Exeter River. And yet the development has, with their stormwater protection devices anyway, they're required to do green snow. So of course, this really won't come to a head, the issue between the town and the developer or the homeowners association, another couple of years ago.
So is this a select
Yes.
board issue?
Yeah.
Well, it would be the whole town, so I wanna see if it's good enough to demand that River Run proceed with the green snow project, the whole town.
But do we want to,
You'd be correct in saying that that is a.
but do we want to ask the select board, do we want to ask our select board representative to take that back and ask them
Yeah,
to
I guess we
consider
would
adopting
do the
it?
research on it, with the conservation commission.
I think it's
Yes, it
pretty,
is on.
yeah.
It is online,
I
and they
think
do
she-
have some training seminars
Yeah.
in reference to it. But did you do any research as far as what this really entails?
Well,
I had
Is it-
investigated that a little bit, and I believe they sent me a brochure, I think I brought it to the planning board.
I do remember seeing it,
It's about
yes.
calibrating your equipment.
Exactly.
Yes,
What
well,
Brentwood
feed
does, I
rate.
see it, because they just drive down the road and they throw salt everywhere.
It's
So
about,
some of it's driver training.
Right, yes, that's large.
But it's still salt,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still salt.
and it's still cast into the river.
Well, we're casting the river now.
Well, they're gonna still do it later too, right? Or do they have little side things on there? to
Yeah,
do?
I mean,
Well,
there's-
they make suggestions as
There-
to the intensity that you use the salt on certain areas, whether you do or don't. It could be sand, for instance. There's a number of
Yeah, I
different.
believe that they, I mean, some of it is temperature oriented,
Exactly.
but depending upon what the climate conditions are, you can use other things besides salt effectively, but you have to be trained to know that.
It's kind of about using your head instead of just opening the salt spreader.
It's gonna be a challenge for the highway to
Unfortunately,
Well,
bridges,
I
bridges
think they're
freeze first.
eminently trainable.
Bridges freeze first. That's
I
what-
suggest that anyone that
they're
wants to
the
learn more about
danger
sand and
point.
salt, go talk to Wayne. 'Cause there've been enough select board meetings where he comes in and spends 20 minutes talking about sand and salt, so.
Is it something the select board could talk about though? It's like a program that you join, I think, and then you get, like drivers get certified or the
Yeah,
town gets.
that's right. There's a training
It's
program for
education.
it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I can bring it back to the board.
Thank you.
So a feed rate, with the advances in our equipment, I believe that we can drastically control our feed rates, our spread rates. I've looked at one of our new vehicles that we've just purchased, and it has a very, very good comprehensive sand and salt
And it could
apparatus
save
on
money then if we use less.
Yes, but it's a fine line between accidents
Right.
and
Right.
salt.
You still have, it has to be effective, but
Right.
Budgeted, New
Protects.
Hampshire pesticide applicators. And that's similarly what they do with that, so it's calibrating, calculating number of tons per mile.
If you read the literature that comes with the sander and salter, it'll tell you exactly how many cubic feet a minute, it'll give you that
Where do
calculation.
you think the town of Brentwood goes out on that?
Hmm?
Do you think the town of Brentwood goes
anywho,
Okay, so,
move
For
on.
sure in a drawer in,
Right,
like, somewhere. there's another
Um,
copy.
I'm sure Wayne has them.
There was a question that came up about how do we, so, we grant, applicants approval and they have an operations and maintenance plan. How do we know that they follow it? Do we have any way of checking that? I don't know. You were gonna look into that a little bit to see if other towns have voluntary programs or,
Town of Kingston requires that they be recorded along with the plan.
mhm,
You've
and
got
we,
a statement
But
somewhere.
It doesn't, there's no enforcement
right,
beyond that.
right.
That it's a document that they've recorded as saying they will follow. Now, they do have to follow it in that there are federal permits that they have to comply with. And if they don't follow those operations manuals, they're not going to comply with their federal site requirements.
Okay.
But we're a pretty small town to be having
Yeah.
an enforcement arm enforcing that
Yeah.
issue.
Do you think there's any role for, at the local level, for trying to track that or get people to self-certify that they're keeping things
Well,
up to
they,
date or?
they do have to self-certify, but they don't self-certify
Not
with
us.
the locality. They
Right.
self-certify with the EPA.
Okay,
I mean, we could require that they self-certify.
or copy us on,
We've had plats that we've had that as a mode of condition. Stormwater, best management, fees, structures.
Well, we often, as a course of our stormwater management, require operations maintenance plans. That's a very,
Standard.
standard thing to do. This issue is, how do we enforce that they're following?
Mhm.
And a note on the plan, recording at the registry, they're all doing the same thing. It's saying that we have the right to do something about it, but do we have the, either the resources or the desire to be?
Well, it seems like step one would
Inspecting
be
that.
a note saying that you must, submit a yearly audit or a yearly report.
Do they
I'm-
already
I'm-
have to
I'm-
do that though for?
I think they have to do it every other year.
The DEP, or whatever it was.
So
Well,
maybe we could just ask for a copy?
But
Kind
who
of
is gonna read that?
starter? I don't know. I'm just
They
trying to
can make
figure
a
out if there's
report
something.
Who's
without
gonna-
Going out there.
Who's gonna go out and
mean,
look at the porous pavement to
And
see if
is
they vacuumed it?
the substance that goes with the sand,
That's what it requires.
is it in a separate container? Do they blend it? Or they blend it down there in the shed? Because are you gonna get a nice clean?
They blend it at the shed. They buy the
Yeah.
sand and salt separately.
They what?
They buy the sand and salt separately.
You know, there's new
Yes.
treatments, like liquid pre-treatment. I know it's suggestions from Brentwood, I just wanna see Brentwood.
Right, but that's a different issue. We've moved on to
I
these
know.
operation and maintenance plans.
Yeah.
And they are provided to us. They are required by the EPA to be followed by the sites. And that's as far as I can tell you it goes.
Mhm.
Depending on what industry that you're in, you do have to submit, sometimes to outside vendors, say you're making something for somebody else, you have to adhere to a certain set of standards and have an independent or outside auditor come in and look at your facility. And they basically inspect you independently and create a rating.
Well, this might be a good question for the consultant, that, Kristen sent our ordinance to, our stormwater ordinance, and he may have some suggestion of how do we get those, how do we audit that? How do we-
I mean, you have to remember, at its base level, those plans mean that the site is operating correctly. And it means that their stormwater management devices will be operating correctly. And if they don't, it's likely going to have negative repercussions to the landowner. I mean, you don't keep your stormwater management basins clear, there's going to be flooding, and that flooding can end up damaging your property.
Yeah.
So if they have a sound process at all, they follow it because the impact is negative to them.
Mhm.
I've never been aware of a report in 47 years.
No, and there are certainly instances where stormwater devices haven't been maintained properly. But in many instances, they are maintained properly on private property.
And if we're a homeowners association,
I think that,
3 bonds?
Tractor Supply
Like just,
worries about theirs and takes care of theirs.
I don't want to be negative, I just.
There are many individuals that do exactly what they're supposed to do.
maybe,
But for everyone that is doing it right, you can probably assume somebody isn't doing it right.
Right. And the question is, do we have a role in that, or is that an EPA issue or a state issue, or?
If it's a condition of approval, yes, the town, we must.
We have a right to enforce whatever we have recorded.
So we would,
Case
so
of
we need to
gross-
know about it.
Gross malfeasance, you could maybe pull their site plan. We really need to slightly have to take some legal action.
no,
It's a good
there's,
question to ask, and maybe this guy will. be
Yeah,
able
we can
to,
ask if there's any like best
how
practices
do we make
for
it happen?
helping to ensure that things are being followed.
is this just a topic of conversation, or is there something in general, is it focused on something that
Though the idea is there something we could be doing at
be
the local level
preventative?
that would
I can't,
require
maybe we can start with,
closer
is there any
review.
time that where we've seen a dramatic failure in one of these systems and something bad happen to any town assets or other property, or
Not that I'm aware of.
not that you're aware of?
Well, Brentwood did receive some federal money, there's a stormwater retention pond over in the corner of Lake Road, Hague Road, and Railroad West. It was put in, actually it was with some town labor.
Was it put in as part of Robinson?
No, this is one that Rob Wolfchuk initiated Did the one at the library too.
Sorry, what?
The
Where?
rain garden. There was a rain garden.
He did,
It's there now.
it was, and then the one over there, but they tend to stop and walking the weeds there. Catch it. There's no maintenance, the town is.
I was gonna say, I'm trying to picture it.
I
But that was
can't
a-
picture it.
But that was a town-created one.
Correct.
No, I'm just saying repercussions. You know what I mean?
Even
Like
if the
if
town isn't doing it.
That's a poor example, because what we're saying is the town constructed it, and the town isn't doing it right.
yeah, that's not where I was going with
And
that.
so let's penalize the town, I guess.
You
I
ran,
don't know.
you ran with
It's a
that
good
first,
thing
but
to have stormwater management, we definitely need to have stormwater management in place, but unless you enforce it, it's just kind of a feel-good thing here.
right.
So I know this isn't our job, but should somebody be looking at that?
We might be able
Since
to
it's
have
right
this consultant.
by the
go through
river.
some of our
Who's-
files.
Or we could just ask, since it was a conservation commission project,
Projects.
Well, in the town.
have the project, the conservation commission look at it again. Have the conservation commission look at it again.
That's the town.
Do you notice how I intentionally swung around?
I think that's the same response you're gonna get from business owners.
But I do believe that this gentleman that came here a couple weeks ago comes some time to the office when you're here, go through some of those files for the commercial ventures that you're speaking to, the bigger ones that you know would have more repercussion. And maybe even have him look at some.
In my estimation, the biggest problem that you're gonna have is with the porous pavement not being maintained properly.
I mean, if that's really what you wanna do, I would recommend we stay right in-house and have our own engineer come in and look at it.
Yeah.
But, and not go to an entirely different,
Yeah.
person who's going to give us a different set of, contractual requirements in order to do this.
No, that makes.
When,
I
when
agree with you.
TEC is going to do it as
That makes
part of their
sense.
contract with
I
us.
mean, TEC is responsible for evaluating and
Right.
making recommendations. I would think that they want to.
And actually, I haven't talked with Chris about it, but maybe their office has done something because they find that there's a way to close the loop for a town.
One of these cases. is
I haven't
push
asked
comes-
him, that's kind of silly, I should just have to ask
When
him.
push comes to shove, and it becomes a legal matter of some enforcement, we as lay people can't go out and look at a stormwater system and say if it's working or not working. We have to have somebody credible, and this guy with TEC.
That's, who has the knowledge?
I mean, he knows our regs, and he's seen the operations, maintenance, plans that have been
Yeah.
created in the last 3 years, so we should start there.
Find out what the rate is, because that's something that you're gonna have to go through the selectmen.
Well,
We don't have the budget for that.
this year we do have some.
To have him
So-
go out and inspect all the drainage in
That's-
the town of
No.
Brentwood.
We're not gonna go to that extent.
Well, that's what I thought we were talking about,
We're-
having him going out and looking at it.
Well, that ultimately, you gotta take it step by step. First,
Okay,
we
fair enough.
acknowledge that we have this
Fair
issue.
I feel like it would be helpful to have kind of a running list of priorities, like when we have an opportunity or when there's, like, we get, every once in a while, we get this kind of quiet period. Some things that, we wanted.
It might just be nice to once a year have Chris come in and not talk to us about a pending application,
Project. Just-
but talk about things that maybe he's seen.
Yeah.
That he doesn't see in other towns, or that he thinks we could,
Best practices.
yeah, I mean, we
issues
don't,
he keeps running into.
we don't have that kind of a relationship with him right now.
You want to invite him in?
But I think we really should.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me,
Good idea.
Yeah.
because he's a hard worker.
Okay. All right, so that's two. We've got, Doug's gonna talk to Seacoast Workforce, and Lauren's gonna talk to TEC. I wanted to talk to you guys about alternates. I've brought this up before, and I looked again at our rules and at the law. And I want to make sure we're following our own rules and the law. So what the law says is if there's an absence or someone's recused, the chair shall appoint someone. And I think our rules say the same thing. And then our rules say that person will carry through the same, if there's an application, they'll continue with that hearing. What we're doing right now, and we talked about this before, and it seemed like the fair thing to do to have this, like we did today, like somebody makes a motion, we go through the whole thing, we vote on it. It's not actually what our rules say, and we're not keeping track of hearings. So I don't know if we want to change the rules. I don't know if we can based on rereading the law.
Does the law say the chairman shall?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't think, the way that we've been doing it, and this has been a discussion here before,
Yeah.
of someone making a motion and you, and all voting on it. Now, in my opinion, like I see that as being far more democratic
Yeah. and
than
that's
one
the
person
discussion.
appointing.
And that was part of the lawsuit, and the judge didn't say, didn't take umbrage with it and say, oh, the state law says the
Right.
chairman does that.
Mhm.
They accepted that as a completely legitimate way
Way to do
for a
it.
board to determine who an alternate would be on an application.
Well, this seems more democratic, and as long as our rules are, right, our rules could change that.
I think it also gives an opportunity, if someone does take issue with it, to speak on it. You know, see, when someone makes a motion, we have to have a second, and then there's discussion, and then you
Yeah.
vote. If you're just appointing someone, then they're, right.
It's very draconian.
It's right, right.
Yeah.
And I personally like to see democracy. I like to see a system, a process.
So two things. One is then we need to update our rules because I want to make sure they align with what we're doing, and they don't right now.
Very well.
And the other thing is we're going to have to keep track. So we've been doing rotation based on meetings, but it should really be based on hearings.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Which the information is all available in the minutes.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing because
So.
It is when it's not, like when we have one big one and it's many meetings, that's pretty obvious, but
if you're not here, you're not here.
yeah.
So if you're not here for that meeting, do you lose your turn?
Well, but if you're,
not there for that meeting, is somebody else subbed in? So now both of you are on, like,
Yeah, I know.
let's take a scenario. There's 3 people. One of them comes on for a hearing. Next week or 2 weeks from that, that hearing continues. That person would be the one to come back on.
but what if they weren't there?
Only if the sitting
Not
member
there, then
who
only
was,
if yeah.
who was the one who was replaced by an alternate comes back, that sitting person always comes.
Yeah.
They're always seated.
Correct.
They don't, it doesn't become, oh, the alternate stood in for you, so the alternate takes your
Right.
place. The alternate wasn't elected. The person was elected, so they
Right.
immediately take their seat back.
Right.
Really.
This started, Mike Donahue, was town council 25 years ago, actually introduced us to the idea that, and I think we've seen that in some of the, planning board handbook, same thing with ZBA, if someone, an alternate, is there present, so basically you're there, you're hearing all of the arguments, you're not just coming in and having not been to a meeting, voting on something. You want to try to concentrate the knowledge that someone will get from being present all through the process.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense.
But if there's one absence and there's a continued hearing, we wouldn't go to the rotation and say, oh, who's up next? We would say, that person sat on the hearing, this hearing last time, they come up. And that's what we haven't been
Is there
keeping track of.
a rule in any of the things that you have to have a full board?
Yes, you have a quorum.
No,
No,
you have to have
no,
a quorum.
You have
Yeah,
to have a
that's-
quorum.
You have to have a
So,
quorum to make a
That's-
decision.
Yeah.
okay.
You
But-
don't always have to have a full board, although this board historically has tended to like to start a meeting with a full board constituted.
Sometimes
However-
what the ZBA does, they'll say to the applicant, you have a quorum, you may have, you're a 5-member board. So this happened a month ago, the 4 members showed up. So they said to the applicant, we can do the hearing tonight. You're under your standing limit 4 members or lower. Or if you wish to continue the meeting, we'll wait until we have 5 members. So that's up to the applicant then to.
That's not the same here. That's a rule that they have. Like, that's, I think, the law.
Correct, that is the law.
But does the planning board have the same?
We do not.
Okay.
But if you have a meeting and you have 3 applications, or rather you have 2 applications, somebody's there for the first time, the next meeting, if it's carried forward, but then there's another application at the same time. So if this continues, you're gonna have the same person to do.
But you don't have to.
You don't?
You
Well,
don't,
just
you don't
said-
have to, you don't have to pull up an alternate every time.
Well, I'm
I
just
think,
saying,
I
let's
think
face
you
it.
do. We can, maybe we can get.
I just asked that.
You
The
don't-
law says if there's an absence, the chair shall.
Oh.
So you do have to have a full board.
That's the way
No, it does say,
I read
it
it.
does use the word shall. It does use the
Well,
Is that, is
well
that the
said.
law or
Well said.
our?
the law.
It makes sense.
Well said.
To Brian's point, and maybe this would be too disjointed, but it is possible. So if we have a hearing, and let's say Brian is seated for that hearing, and it's continued to the following week, and we have a vacancy at the next meeting, and let's say we have other agenda items
Mhm.
besides that hearing.
Yeah.
Theoretically, we could say, for this hearing, we're going to make a motion to have Brian sit because he was there for the previous meeting.
Yeah.
And then after that agenda item, we can go back to our rotation and say, okay, we'll make a motion to have Mark, sit. So
Yeah.
it might be a little bit disjointed, but if we get into a routine with it, it may not be.
And I think from the applicant's perspective, like, they don't care who else is on the agenda that night or when the
don't.
meeting is. It's their application, so they should have the same people if possible.
I guess I'd have to question, has it been a problem? Are we making a problem where there hasn't been a problem?
Well, we used to, go back into the 80s and 90s, we had nights with 5 applications. So
Yeah, this is, I'm
I'm
just,
bringing it up now because
We don't want a problem.
We
If
don't
we're
want-
doing something that's not technically correct.
I think our process has already been tested.
Well, I think our
And,
process.
and at the point where, like, I remember talking about it afterwards and saying, we need to fix this so that it reads the same as what we do, and then we never did it because we.
Yeah,
So-
I would agree to
So
that.
that's why I'm,
I
yeah,
would agree to that, and I think the answer really to this, I mean, I understand that people who are elected to these positions do miss meetings every once in a while, but if they would make a better effort to actually be here, then you wouldn't have to appoint alternates, would you?
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
like,
Yes.
what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, switching to the chair appointing somebody versus the system that we're already doing is gonna be a non-change, because we all just approve whoever's turn it is. So if you're working off of a list that is like a visible list of like, it's this person's turn, it's this person's turn, I don't think that would be unfair.
Why are we voting? If we all agree, like, we have a
Well, no,
list
just if
and-
you're, if, I
Yeah.
think you said your concern was, somebody makes a motion in a second, but
Say, let's just run down a bit of a scenario. I get appointed as an alternate, you vote on it, I'm sitting in on, and perhaps that evening, there could be 3 hearings.
Mhm.
Do I sit for the first hearing and then sit down, and then you bring up another alternate for the next hearing?
That's what I'm thinking.
It's they're separate hearings.
because
To
that
us,
way,
it's
if
a
they're
meeting,
because
but-
that way, if they're continued, you're not gonna get into a situation where it's just the same person forever.
And then
Right.
that member comes back that's absent, and then that person loses, that they take that seat.
Yep.
And you
Unless it's a recusal, yeah, like Glenn said, they.
However, if you have 2 or 3 alternates, and they're all participating at all the meetings, they're gonna be just as aware of what's going on as the person who's sitting at the table.
Which I think is the reason you're supposed to come to all the meetings as an alternate.
Right, right. But I mean,
Yeah, this is
that,
just,
that kind of throws the
Proceed.
thought that the
We'll
person that was
Get
voting
no
last
argument from me
time
on that.
should be voting the next time, because he or she is not necessarily better informed than somebody who's sitting over there. That's an
I
alternate.
would say the alternate that's better informed, that was actually me.
You can't disenfranchise an elected member of the
But you're not saying that.
Not elected.
I'm saying you can't do that to an applicant. If an applicant, like, they can see who the elected members are and
Yep.
blah, blah, blah. And then they come the first time and Brian's on the board that night
Mhm.
because there's an absence. I feel like they have the right to know that, like, that's who's gonna vote on their thing. So you don't have Mark voting on
Mhm.
one condition and you voting another condition and, you know.
I think it's worth trying out, but I would like to change our bylaws to suggest that the, yeah.
But it seems to me that even in the past, that, I'm trying to go back, the board's been very conscious about doing that anyway. I don't,
For
I
the,
can't
for
think
the
of a
big,
time.
for the big ones, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't have, does anybody know, like, who served on, well, we had one recently, the one from 125. They were in probably 4 times. Did we keep track of who was ultimately voting?
We did not.
So, I don't know.
Was there someone recused themselves or absent?
We definitely had alternates sitting on that hearing.
I think you just do it when you can. I mean, the elected member is the elected member, so they're always have.
Yes. Priority.
Yeah. But then if we can't, if something's big and contentious and multiple meetings, we just try. I think if the court ever looks at something, we look to see, try to do the best.
And are you doing what you said you were doing?
In fact, in that fourth case of River One, the judge actually wrote in there that it seemed to be in response to the question from the plaintiff, who said that they weren't following the rule. The judge actually wrote and concurred that the board did a democratic process and let the whole board appoint the alternate.
But I think a key part of that too is that we had the same person.
Yes.
It wasn't willy-nilly, like
No, we did that
every
for a
week
reason.
somebody different,
Didn't
right?
just happen that way.
So I think that's why we want to
Be a
do
little
that
more
more in
conscious.
practice. Yeah.
If you sat in,
When
okay,
we
so
change
even
our
if the,
rules,
Yeah, we changed
the elected member comes back,
Well, in that case, it was a recusal.
So that person
Okay,
is
just
never
in-
coming
in a-
back.
But
we're sharpening here, it's only
Yeah.
on a recusal.
no, so if there's a spot because of an absence, it should be consistent for that applicant. They should keep getting the same alternate.
Okay.
If there's an alternate.
If there is an alternate, it should be the same alternate.
Fair, fair.
Right.
I
So
would,
if the elected person comes back, they are on the board or?
Correct.
They are. But perhaps,
As well
when that,
as-
perhaps, so River Run went 7 hearings. So you could have more than one member actually be
Be
absent
Right.
over that period. And that one alternate could maybe fill in for 2 different members,
Yeah.
You're
if
supposed
it
to
worked
have-
out that way.
We are supposed to have some ethical standard as a board member to say, if you missed 3 of the 7 meetings.
You don't feel you should
Yeah, you
recuse
can
yourself.
recuse yourself. If-
Hmm.
Yeah.
And the board members can ask that person, say, hey, for this reason, we ask that you recuse yourself. No, they don't necessarily have to. The board can.
Don't have to.
well, especially if they've been able to keep up with it through reading the minutes and watching the like if
Yeah.
they're
Well,
staying
sure.
informed.
Right, if it's recorded now and they have the opportunity to actually see the whole meeting, even though they couldn't be there.
I think we'll cross that
Provided
bridge when we
audience
come to it.
working
I think we're just slapping.
I don't know who to
But,
ask about his name.
but our rules of procedure should say what the hell is we're doing.
Yes. So I'll
I think we're in
edit,
agreement.
although, does anybody have the Word doc?
Pretty sure I have the Word doc,
Can
yeah.
you send me the Word doc? I just
Yeah.
have the PDF. I'll fix the part that says the board appoints and change it to the board votes, or the chair appoints versus the board votes.
So I just want to be clear. I'm not entirely sure, and maybe Glenn needs to read this. Were you reading the part where it says filling vacancies? Where it says that
No.
okay.
Well, no, it should have been filling of vacancies. That would be the part of the statute.
But that's a,
that
that's a
makes-
section
That's a-
just if somebody leaves the board.
But that's if they leave the board. I'm trying to find the one about putting in,
Absences.
yeah.
Then it should just be under the paragraphs that actually
had-
are headed alternates.
I had it too. Actually, I might have it saved in a file. Sorry, I did print it out and then.
It's in a safe place somewhere.
And I think it's a good time to do this because we don't have a lot going on right now.
The thing about the section about alternates does not appear to have anything about how they are utilized.
You're gonna force me to get that RSA book, aren't you?
No, you could just, do you want me to put it up on the big screen? Yep, but you were already gone. You were out the door.
It's 67311, designation of alternate members. Whenever a regular member of a local land use board is absent, or whenever a regular member disqualifies himself or herself, the chairperson shall designate an alternate if one is present to act in the absent member's place.
And the word was shall.
The word is shall.
And it was whenever
That's pretty
a regular member is absent.
uncontrovertible.
So what happens if the chair is not there?
Then
It'll be an
whoever's
acting
running
chair.
the
The
meeting.
vice chair
Okay,
is
yeah.
the chair.
But that doesn't, but not,
Steph.
but you don't replace me. Or do you replace
We
me?
cannot
No, we
replace you.
cannot.
But I can
You
replace
The
me?
board, well, the board can.
You have a
The
you
board
have an
of
alternate?
select, the board of select people,
Select board.
the select board is actually tasked with determining who your replacement is.
Yeah.
When they appoint you, they're supposed to appoint
An
a
alternate.
replacement.
I
Yeah.
think
Paul.
it's Paul probably,
It's-
think
so
given
so
how.
it goes on to say,
it
except
is
that
Paul.
only the alternate designated for the city or town council, board of selectmen, or village district commission shall serve in place of that member. So you
Correct.
need a designated alternate.
So basically another
Correct.
select board member that is,
So if you
Okay.
can't make it, this,
I'm pretty sure that Karen told me it was Paul.
right. I don't think I've missed one yet. I had to call into a couple.
Here's something, like, you actually started on a slippery slope. You've only been missed one, but if you miss four consecutive unexcused
Where's the
absences
paper?
I already filled it out.
by a member may result in the board of the members who resignate.
I
Yeah,
don't think,
anytime.
at least I haven't ever said to anybody, that's not an excused absence. Sorry, you had a baby, it's not an excused absence. I don't think that's
I think he's
I
referring.
don't think that would be fair.
You had a baby?
All right, I think
Congratulations.
Have beaten that horse to death?
yes, we've covered that issue. I will make that tweak if you send me the Word doc. And that's, I think, all I had. We have a manifest.
I'll make a motion to approve the July 18th
Oh, yeah.
minutes.
Did folks get a chance to?
Second.
No, because nobody sent them to him.
You
I mean, they sent them to you.
Abstain.
You can abstain.
I thought
Not
they were
to the
very
email
well
address
written.
you expected.
Did we have a
So-
second?
So,
Did you second?
someone seconded it.
You sent your-
I made the motion, I think.
Oh,
I'm
you made-
in.
Oh, second, then I'll second.
Okay.
It's fine.
Aye.
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 And we have 2 abstentions?
I'm sorry, who abstained? These two?
These 2.
You have a 4 members.
The one that you forced to abstain.
Why were we not here?
You've disenfranchised.
No good deed goes
Bruce.
unpunished, that's for sure.
So can I ask a question?
Yes.
Actually, to the audience, because it was a discussion after a select board meeting. Liz, I suggested that maybe she consider being an alternate. I'd like to know if she'd still like to consider being an alternate.
Just use the regular one. Just use the regular one. There should not be.
I don't know if the planning board has one.
The planning board does not.
Does
I
not.
made one, but you guys
Is it
shot me
necessary?
down. Yes.
So I know you're changing from the shall, the chair shall appoint to the way you do it now, which everybody
Yeah.
So you're changing.
Yeah.
What did you decide on the alternates? Because the alternate fills in for, Route 125. That alternate would be the alternate again. It would be that same one.
Yes.
Right.
I just didn't make that part.
So it's
Right.
consistent through a
Yes, I think that's
hearing.
right. So that you don't have to put anything in
And it's
But it's not that, I just want to know,
Yeah.
since I'm responding for probably the alternate. What
It could, if there's
entails.
3 hearings all going at the same time in
Yeah.
different weeks, then, we'll just have to have a little
But for the,
spreadsheet.
for the second hearing, it would be surprising. Well, the second hearing would be fine, but for the.
A different one, we could, yeah. And I think the alternates can help us remember that too. Like, I'm the one who's been sitting in on that hearing. Yeah,
I mean, we should just
So
have a
if-
spreadsheet or something.
we should have a spreadsheet, but it might be faster if somebody
If,
else knows.
if Liz is still interested in becoming an alternate without the application, can I make a motion that we approve her as an alternate? Or
Yeah,
do you want
do-
the application?
does anybody remember the process?
He just said the
The
process.
board-
That's just
So-
The
it?
board chooses its own
Yeah.
alternate.
So the
Yeah.
planning, yeah, I was just gonna
That
say, the
was the
planning board is
process.
That
not
was-
chooses its own
under
alternate.
the other, the select board has its own process,
Sort
but
of
I
like
don't
the
think.
library.
You know,
I must kill.
your motion is a completely legal motion.
Absolutely it
I'll
is.
second that motion.
And it's been seconded. Any discussion?
Well, I'd just like to ask, is like we ask most people to, to promise, but we ask to take on the job as an alternate, that you go on, Brent will help you to locate this handbook for planning board members. Then that you read it, and then once a year in the fall, there's a, NHMA, there's a planning board seminar for new members on state laws and procedures. It's not a big time-consuming process, but that's something I would ask if you commit to reading our local zoning book, the state handbook for planning board members, and one fall course.
Yeah, I just have a question.
8 o'clock.
Is it online?
It's all on YouTube
Yes.
too. Right now, you can go on YouTube and find all the
And this is great, great reading.
Yeah.
The whole book? Are you nuts?
Well, just to read, you're not gonna remember it all. but
No,
just to
right.
remember it.
I'll skip it, yeah.
Mm.
No, because I don't, attend a lot of these meetings, but
Hmm.
But I see Brian in the office, Katie, periodically, I see Mark every now and then, so, more recently, since I've been interested. I have one other question, just to ask you a question. How do you determine which, I think it's housing grants that you like, who's determining the grants that the planning board is applying?
yeah.
Board. So any grants that you apply, do you have, I know you won one for $40,000 or something, that already been spent.
Yeah, that one just ended.
Mhm.
Okay, and then are any more, you said you just completed one.
Yes,
What
step-
is that for?
So we just completed the one that was for an audit of our ordinances for housing. And they also did our housing chapter for our master plan. The next one is, so what we're applying for is it's like a series of grants. The next one is supposed to be more actual help writing ordinances if we wanted to change something, and should be bigger. So and we really didn't go out and look for a lot of things. This is something the state set up and funded and has been promoting with the communities to try to get us some help. So
So are the ordinances, I mean, these books you want me to read, or the ordinances?
it's that.
No, the book Bruce was pointing to is the ordinance book.
Yes.
And I think you have to go get sworn in
Yes.
Correct.
too.
Well, we haven't voted yet.
Oh,
we haven't?
I'm sorry.
No. We have a motion and we had a second.
I have a motion and a second. Motion and a second.
Somebody's keeping track.
All in
Any
favor?
any discussion?
I just didn't want to make sure we didn't forget.
Yeah, thank you. I tend to skip over some really obvious stuff sometimes.
I have a hyphen waiting for something else, so I would have asked.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fill in your hyphen, sir.
So do we need
So
to
voted.
send anything to the clerk or somebody to say she's gonna come in and get
Yep.
sworn in?
We'll
Go
probably
see.
do that. That'd be great.
I will do that.
You have to go see Daphne.
My God.
But Glenn won't be in till Wednesday. So you'll have to go after next Wednesday.
No, I will
email.
Oh,
Gavin.
you'll email, okay, sorry.
I could email her right.
That's not something that has to
Thank you.
happen face to face.
Would you like me to,
I'm a business in person
Glenn?
guy.
I'll just send that email right now and I'll CC you.
Oh, that's even better.
So kind of on the subject of alternates and members, is the board in agreement that we could make some of these copies available? I know the ZBA falls under our
Mhm.
So I think we ought to have a copy here in the office too. So I propose that we have 10 copies of this maybe.
Is that a motion?
Yes, and maybe, but a concurrent motion at the same time. You ought to see if we can, when you come up with a planning board handbook.
There's
There
the
is one.
exact
There
same
is
one,
one.
just like that. I found the PDF, both
Yeah.
PDFs online.
There is.
Mhm.
So you-
Absolutely is.
And it gets updated every year.
You could print something like that for me.
Is 2024 out now?
Absolutely.
No, this
Appreciate that.
2023.
Do we have a fancy copier
2023.
here? We can
Can-
just jam a
can we
whole
just-
stack in?
Oh,
Or
or,
collate?
or we
Does it
could do,
collate?
or we could do it for real and,
Get it
have them bound
spiral
or something
bound.
so that you can,
But Staples would do that. That's what I was thinking. I was just gonna go out and pay for stuff and say Staples, what, you get 10 copies of this? But if you know someplace else that, I'm not gonna come over here to this copy machine. and say,
absolutely. Staples is gonna be really expensive, but sure, yes.
Or do you, I mean, if you have another printer in the town uses.
Don't we have a printer here that you can put
I
the
mean,
stack in?
I just looked online and there are places that print, but I don't know if that's who would usually do that research to find out where.
System.
Well, I would just
The
walk into
town used to
Staples.
use,
Yeah.
when we printed these,
Mm-hmm.
a lovely lady named Mary used to come into Karen's office and do contract
Oh,
printing.
dear.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
Really?
She
So
was
maybe
won-
I
she was
could,
lovely.
I could ask like Minuteman or something, like there are some local printers. I can look into that.
Okay,
And Minuteman is pretty affordable.
so I think like 10.
Oh, I don't need, I have the PDFs.
You
I was
want-
gonna do 10 of each, or do you want a different number of the
This
planning
and
board
the
one?
planning board?
I would say if you could do 12 of the handbook for the planning board,
12 of that for the handing board.
for the,
I mean,
well,
Planning.
because there's more members and
Yep.
alternates.
And then what about the ordinances?
Everybody
We
has
usually
a
get new
binder.
pages if
Hmm.
we change anything.
but like the roads coming on, we don't have a book, we could.
Who makes that?
We do.
Yeah, Jillian used to,
The person who no longer works with us.
yes.
So,
The vacant position.
so we need at least a couple of those.
Okay.
And then we usually buy a couple RSAs every year, or we
Yes.
get a couple, and
Nope,
then
she-
we just kind
Two-
of.
I think that the RPC provides 2.
Which is enough. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't have a white one.
I don't need one.
I get the old
mine's
copy.
purple.
This is the new.
Don't even think about it.
There's so many cool handouts that nobody gave me. All right, so I can look, so you are making a motion that the planning board should expend the funds to make 10 of
copies
those and
this,
12 of the other one?
And, I don't
Two
know,
more?
2 or 3 of these, I think.
I would have, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Like, do you
Second.
have one, Doug?
Me?
Mhm.
Which one are you asking about?
The
Any?
zoning board.
The one in your hand.
I have this one. I do not have the zoning one, or I don't believe I have the planning.
You don't
one
need
either.
the zoning one,
Well, yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah, so no, I do not have.
Okay.
unless it's.
How
you
many
like-
zoning books are you
like-
making?
Yeah.
12.
12.
12 of those.
10. 10 of those and 12,
I'm in zoning ordinance.
I don't know.
You said three.
I thought you said that
Who needs them?
you make those.
We should all have.
We
one
have
current,
historically
right?
made those.
Yeah, I do.
We'll use Glenn's time for this, if we could have some print.
Okay, I'm happy to, like, bound, or is that the kind of thing where you change out pages often enough that we should?
Yeah, usually, this works well for this.
Yeah.
A brown copy for this, and a brown copy for the planning board.
Okay.
How many people need, so you need an ordinance folder,
Probably me and Liz.
Liz.
We gotta do 3 days, maybe
And-
4. There should be one in the office.
I gotta find mine.
It's up here, isn't it?
It is up there, but I should have my copy. I think it's, I left it in the
Okay.
truck.
So
Find it.
10 of the zoning handbook, 12 of the planning handbook bound, 4 of this binder.
Need a second.
Mark.
second
Yeah,
that.
Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes. Prepare to fill in your hyphen.
I too.
All in favor?
Aye.
So
Perfect.
voted.
Pudding.
And are there any extra RSA books in the office?
No,
Did we get
I
two
don't know.
recently?
I don't think
I
so.
don't know when we.
We
I've
get
been trying.
two.
And he's got his hand on it.
Do you know what? I know.
This is one of them, and this one will stay in the planning board office.
Well,
I always try to get the free one, and
what we ought to do then,
it never really works out.
can we include in that, amend that motion to buy 4 of those?
They're not very expensive when they,
Oh, I thought they
when they-
were.
no, when the planning commission sends around the order form, they're like $7 for this.
Really?
And $9 if you want the one that has the CD.
Oh, I thought
They're
they
not
were like
expensive.
Oh, that should
$75.
just
If you
be-
buy this as an attorney, it's like $300.
That's the price I saw maybe online.
It is an
Yeah, it's
attorney, it's
ridiculous.
$300.
It's ridiculous.
If you buy it through the Office of State, the Office of
I
Planning
mean,
for,
it's
7.
our
planning
section
boards,
doesn't change.
it's $9.
But there's a
Literally.
window.
I'd like
There's a
to-
window for
I'd
that,
like-
isn't
there
there?
is.
Chuck, for a minute, I'd like to make a motion to, amend my motion to buy 4 copies of this.
You can make a new motion. You don't
Yeah,
have to
just
go
make a
back.
new motion.
Yeah, make a new motion for the.
I'd like to make a new
Go with
motion
5 and I'll give you
That
$7.
I think you should have.
that we buy 5.
5.
I'm gonna add
I
one
mean,
more to your 4.
In my other towns, and for a very long time in this town, we just bought one for every planning board member.
I
Right.
just look online, honestly.
That was my
but-
That was my complaint, to say, why am I buying a book for you? You should provide me with that book.
Correct, you're making this personal.
Who would
I was
like,
thinking- I was thinking like I was supposed to buy you that book.
No.
who
You-
would
I
like
mean,
a
you as
new,
the entity of
town.
Brentwood. Yes.
who would like a new RSA book? 1, 2,
I don't have
Three.
one, so she have.
4, 5.
Come in handy. I
Yeah.
just
I
stack
think I
them.
will change that now.
Just don't have
Did
that
you-
new
should
edition.
I- So, yeah, no, so you made, your motion was for 7 copies?
My motion was for 10. Right? How many did you
We have a
get?
couple people on here. I counted up to 5.
Yeah,
I can replace mine too. Okay, 10.
10,
That's fine.
please.
Lauren here.
Did you so second that?
All in favor?
Aye.
They do come, they come in very handy every once in a while. You
They-
want-
they'll-
and-
well, yeah,
And you'll,
they are.
you gotta like, read whatever you're reading, and then it's to see the other one. So you're constantly like, you got like 5 pages open reading it.
That's why, yeah, but online,
I have a weird smile on my face. I don't know
all right.
Because I read that stupid book.
Never admit to anything.
Anybody need anything else?
No.
To do their planning board job?
I am.
So I would like, I think that my appointment was unanimous.
It was.
I would like that.
It is.
It is.
What, did you
Well,
want me
It
to?
would
vote?
say
I
so
said
voted.
So voted. I didn't say unanimously voted. but I
7-0.
said
You can
so
say
voted.
7-0-0.
So unanimously voted.
The new alternate generally takes minutes for the first 6 months.
Right.
New alternate generally, sister tradition.
We are
And
also.
they bring candy
We're
too.
also using town email addresses exclusively now as of today.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We'll get you set up
Um,
with one.
And I'm trying to get more things online so that we're not just emailing stuff around, but hopefully future state, all the plans and Glenn's notes and everything, like you could just go to the folder for tonight and everything will be there. That's the goal.
I tried
That's the
printing
game
our
plan.
minutes for tonight and I couldn't do it.
Did it open in did it automatically download it?
Nothing
or
come
open in a-
up, but I have the wrong email address.
My God, can we say that enough times?
All right.
Did you say you had the wrong email address?
So
Any,
what are the email from my own personal?
It's your name, so it's your first letter, the first letter of your name, B,
Yeah.
West, at brentwoodnh.gov.
That's it.
That's it.
but you,
But
did,
you need a
But you need
password.
a
Need to have a-
password.
You gotta go in and see Karen, and Karen is gonna
Karen has-
issue you a
She
temporary
has,
password.
one was already,
yeah.
oh, but it probably has
No,
lapsed.
Jillian
Probably
handed
is
them
last,
out.
like
Probably
mine.
Is that all lourquage?
Yes, all lowercase.
Oh, that's
those
right,
two.
that's right. I Got that?
Now, don't look at my test.
And so you
Be
ask
West
Karen.
Ed.
All right, we have a
Yeah.
manifest.
brentwoodnh.gov.
That's
Let me
right.
just check.
And then I
Brentwood
tried to do it, and I
NH.
couldn't
No,
do
no,
it.
Yes,
no.
Brent-
Yeah,
So it's B West
Oh, you
Yeah.
waited too long?
at
No, I
Yeah.
went right home.
brentwoodnh.gov.
No, but seriously.
Yeah.
bring it in.
All right.
I did mine.
Did you?
Well, yeah, well.
And you will be prompted
Office
for
360.
passcode, so you'll have to get that from Karen.
It's a bit,
No
it's not like your
capitals, huh?
general email.
No capitals.
It can do a lot more things.
No
but
capitals.
Hold on.
I'll try.
Liz, did you say when you were gonna come in and get sworn in? Or just,
No, no.
no, I'm saying at some point she will be coming in. Is that pretty much what I should say?
You come in by the end of next week.
No, we've already informed Daphne that she was made an alternate. She sent an email to Daphne. Already, yes.
By the way, my first name is Elizabeth, so my first name is
Oh, okay, I'm aware. Who are you telling, who are you? Okay.
They always did the L.
Do you want us calling you Elizabeth? Or Liz?
Um,
Oh, okay.
Just saying, sort of like Becky, just for,
You had a question?
No, I was just gonna say for the alternates and members who were voted for conservation, I was advised to call the office, call Daphne or Heather, make sure the paperwork is ready to be sworn in, and that either Heather or Daphne are here to swear you in. It has to be one of the two.
One of the two of them
do
is
have
here
to-
every day.
Well, to check just to make sure.
Okay.
You have to sign some sort of, I went through that.
yeah,
You have to sign a paperwork, because I
Before
came in
they-
to be sworn in,
But it doesn't
and there
have
was
to
no
be all the
paperwork for
same.
them, and so they couldn't do it.
just let me know if I need to come in beforehand.
So Kristen, do you want to just let me know, or do you want me to just call the office?
Call the office. Can you check on this? This says that we owe $124, 30 days
I-
over, and we're only paying.
That was literally the question that I was, because nobody's gonna know the answer to that. It's weird because it's like we're a payment behind or something.
Yeah, we have, well, we had a
For our notices.
balance, why does it say? Balance for 248, and then we added 93, and we paid 124, and we owe 217, and we're paying 93. So we
So
still
we're
owe
paying whatever the
124.
current one is, but we're
But
like
we're not
missing.
paying, it says 30 days and over is $124.
But we just paid 100. Do you see how there's a payment for 100?
They're probably similar, though.
Yeah.
It's probably the same charge,
Yeah.
similar charge.
I was planning on asking about that next
Okay.
week, but that's not gonna help you in this exact moment.
It's
Well,
for-
we'll at least pay this part.
It's for notices, so.
Yeah.
Right, but we don't want to be delinquent. This says we're-
You're asking, you're talking to a group of people who have never seen those invoices
I'm asking,
before.
I
Oh,
am,
you're asking
I am
Glenn.
wondering if this is due to the fact that you do not currently have a staff member that would typically handle these things.
It's-
but we're
it's
paying
actually
this
be-
one.
No, it's
Does it
actually
have
because
people
Carrollstown News, we're not a business.
No.
Oh, sweet.
So switch to
I think it is.
Union Leader.
No, the question is, why aren't we paying them the full
Oh, yeah.
price?
I don't-
And that's where I feel like having somebody who just looks at all.
Yeah, I have no idea, because
So
I.
are you going to
Union
ask
leader.
Karen?
I can ask, yeah.
Thank you. Any other business?
I'm writing that for the third time. What's
Going
that?
once.
With
going
both
twice.
pens?
Are you putting a hyphen?
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Hopefully.
Make a
So
motion
moved.
to adjourn.
Hope so.
Second.
Second, third.
Wait, no, Brian, you were
Sign
first.
this.
All in favor?
So
Aye.
voted.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, let me
It's exciting.
Can we shut these up?
Mm-hmm.
down.
Anybody wants to sign, Brian, go ahead and sign your name.
And turn on.